Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome to another Steelers postgame show where the Pittsburgh Steelers win their third game in a row. They advance to 6-2, heading into their Week 9 bye. Sole owners of first place in the AFC North as of right now. I'm Jeff Hartman. To talk about this win over the New York Giants, I bring in Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. Dave, what's up?
Hey, it's after midnight. It's technically Tuesday morning.
That's right.
So, but if you're going to be up here, you're going to be talking Steelers, at least you're doing it after a win. And sometimes what you need to do is manage to find a win, even when you're not necessarily playing your best football, and the Steelers managed to do that tonight.
It's a Victory Tuesday already. So, all right, Bryan Davis, welcome to the show.
I am glad to be here as always. I'm glad to be celebrating a win. I had a buddy that at the beginning of the season said that he didn't think the Steelers were going to win 5 games. I told him they're at least going to be winning 8, and he owes me a steak if they win 8. So I'm 2 games closer to a Texas Roadhouse steak, and I'm going for the $32 ribeye. Just saying.
Well done, for sure. So again, the Steelers win 26-18 in a very strange game on Monday Night Football. Nonetheless, we're going to start this before we get to the super chats, as we have some of those piling up. We always start off with knee-jerk reactions. So, Dave, I'm going to let you go first.
Knee-jerk reaction is I knew that I enjoyed the last 2 games before this one, but this would help me remember why I enjoyed them so much, because it was just a completely different feeling sitting there knowing. I mean, the Steelers never trailed. They never trailed in the game.
No,
but you're just like, one little thing, and when they had the turnover, you're like, man, when you're letting a team like this hang around so much, one little thing could change the tide. Well, the Steelers defense, although they struggled, especially to stop the run, they turned that one little thing into 2 big things of their own to finish it off. So, although it wasn't pretty, they covered. I tried to tell people that the Giants were a better road team, and they kind of played more like the road Giants than they did the home Giants. But the Steelers managed to get the win, which is the most important thing.
Yeah. Bryan, what's your knee-jerk reaction to the win?
It was an odd game, but oddly, I felt comfortable the entire time.
Or is that me?
That's you. He's fine.
I felt comfortable the entire time, Jeff and Dave, with this game, because the Steelers, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, they smile in the face of adversity. And when they had adversity, it was like, no problem. Let's just come on back and we'll match you or even do better. So it seemed like they got stronger and more confident as the game went on. It's definitely Russell Wilson's team. He is the leader right now. And even though that was a big turnover towards the end, like Dave brought up, it was just I think they were not wilting, but they were not overconfident either. It was a hard-fought game. Dave warned us that the Giants were going to play them tough and play them tough on the road, and they did. And my gosh, Tracy Jr., this guy is a stud. So there's a lot of people on fantasy waivers right now going after Tyrone Tracy Jr., Dave.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the Steelers struggled to stop the run. Now, I don't know what it is, because I know we lost Jeff. I'm sure he'll reboot and be back with us as soon as he can. I constantly admit I'm not a secondary guy. I'm really not. I look at the trenches. You could throw different looks in the back, and I don't always get it. It really seemed like it didn't feel like it was this like a similar defensive look that the Steelers were giving tonight as they were recently. I'm not exactly sure what the whole idea was, but I was surprised how much they struggled to stop the run. But it is what it is. We won't get into that too much. Do we want to hit up super chats while Jeff's gone?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. That's safe to do.
All right, I'll go ahead and do that. We'll start off here. $2 into the tip jar from one Heath Davis. Is that the one who calls him El Jefe? I'm trying to remember the names for the Ride or Die crew, if that's El Jefe or not. But $2 in the tip jar says Brian Dabble was the angriest coach I've ever seen. He was kind of angry. I don't know. See, because I would say Dan Campbell, but he's the most intense coach I think I might have ever seen. I don't know. He was angry at some moments tonight, but there was some interesting calls there going on. Go ahead, Ryan.
He has a right to be angry. Just because the way his team is playing. This guy's a coach of the year just 2 years ago. But no, I think I've seen angrier through the years.
Yeah, and then Brian Diaz puts $1.99 in the tip jar and says a win is a win, even if it's an embarrassing one. Do you think this was an embarrassing win? I mean, when you cover the spread, it's kind of hard to say it's an embarrassing win. This is the NFL. It's a lot better than the embarrassing loss that the Ravens had. Yes, now 2 days ago, now that we're after midnight, against the Browns when they were favored by more than what the Steelers were and did not win the game. So, it wasn't like the last ones. It really wasn't. But there we go. That just went away for me. So I'm going to see. Hopefully, I'm not skipping one. Let me know if I skipped one, Brian, the way this is working. But next up, we have Jeff will go ahead and maybe take over with this one. We did a couple super chats if you're ready for this one.
Sure. Tom plays games. Tom Muir gives us $6. Dollar per W. Great seeing both Alex and TJ eating tonight. Beanie is a game ender. Bye week, then the real work begins. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Thank you very much for that $5.
We did lose one.
Did we?
Yes. And I'll get that after
you.
Heath. Go ahead with Heath,
right.
and I'll bring him up.
Heath Davis gives us $5. The worst part about the game was listening to Aikman. The best part was listening to Aikman begrudgingly talk well about us through clenched teeth. I love it. Love it. Thank you very much for the tip. And then is this the one we missed?
Yes.
From John, is it Liam
Bruno?
Bruno, $4.99. He said maybe Daniel could see the field better if his eyes weren't so close together. So there you go.
I'm not going there, but
oh my gosh. All right. We can get that off the screen. Very good. Thank you all for the tips. I'm sorry that I missed some of those. Internet just
we've got more though.
Oh, which
oh
one?
No. Are we on Bernardo there, Ryan?
I don't know where we are.
Bernardo
so
Tome.
Yeah, there we go.
You guys bring
What
them up.
is that R? Is that
that's an R.
Russia?
No. Russia?
No. Is that what is it in India?
Rupees?
Yeah.
Rupees.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I feel like I'm playing The Legend of Zelda. I feel like I'm playing Zelda here. So Daniel, special team at the Smith. There you go. Danny Smith for sure.
That was special teams coming through in a big way still.
Steeler fan 69 always provides some humor, gives us $5. Says I went to a Halloween party and someone who dressed in a Gloria Gaynor face mask. At first I was afraid. I was petrified. What year, Bryan Anthony Davis?
I Will Survive, 1979.
There you go.
Also, a song featured in The Replacements with Shane Falco.
Gosh, why do you got to bring that up?
That was the first non-slow song played at my wedding.
Oh, there you go. All right. How many do we have left?
Oh, sorry, my wedding reception, I guess I should say.
Yes.
We've got about 2 or 3 left.
All right. Faceless Man gives us 602. Says 6-2 at the bye. That was the worst game I've seen Broderick Jones play. Hopefully we get healthy over the bye and maybe some help at wide receiver with a winky face.
Tell you what, he had a nice pickup. He was just so inconsistent. He had that nice pickup on the long one the Van Jefferson one, I think. He ended up, pewing back, but he also had some complete whiffs there too. So it was
yeah.
This is the last one.
All right. S. Myers 3423 gives us $9.99. So today marks 9 years since my dad's suicide. He was the biggest Steeler fan I have ever known. So this one is special. Not to be dark, but man, I'm so happy to see this team win on October 28th. Well, my condolences on this being the 9-year mark. And if you can get some type of grace internally from a Steelers victory, and we can help you along in that process, then we're doing our damn job. So, yeah, I'm glad the Steelers could win for you on this day, and thank you very much for the tip. We do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys.
We got another one.
Oh, we have one more. Go ahead. Bring
Last
it up.
one. Yep.
Oh, our buddy Andrew Palladino, my West Virginia friend, he's $5. He said Pittsburgh was 1 penalty and 1 foot away from putting up 40 tonight. Feels like there is so much more there. Real test ahead.
Yeah. Uh-oh, I think we lost Jeff again.
I think we did. Yeah, I think he's frozen.
This is what's so weird about this one is exactly what Andrew was saying there. The Steelers left so much off the scoreboard. Wouldn't you say so, Brian?
Yeah,
there's just so much more that they could have done, and they could have, with the Mortal Kombat, finish him. They could have done that so much early. They were moving the ball so much with ease until they got to the red zone, and then it was just so. That was the biggest issue offensively tonight.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that could have been. I mean, we're looking at another 8 points on the board there, especially. And, when they get down to about the 3 or so, it seemed like they got down to the 3 and then it was marked at the 10 with George Pickens. But Pickens had so many opportunities in this game and he was really good. I felt like he lost 2 touchdowns in this game. Yeah. But I mean, when it comes down to it, what's that? Just another 8 points. So because of the foot and because of that, because you still get 6 points from field goals out of them. Correct.
Yes. And that was the thing. They left so much that they left so many points on the field and not on the scoreboard.
But what we're seeing, Dave, is the potential of the offense.
Yes.
And that's what I was trying to tell you early on this game. While I kind of felt comfortable the entire time because I believe in the offense and I feel strong about the offense for the first time since about 2017. Really, I do. That's the strongest I feel about this offense right now, just because they're able to put it up. Russell Wilson is making everybody around him better, including a guy like Van Jefferson, who is now a brand new receiver.
Yeah. So as we wait for Jeff to rejoin us, we got one more coming in here now from Thomas Potts, $2 in the tip jar that says the game got good, starting with the Corgi race. Yes, we saw the reports of that at halftime with the Corgi races going on.
I was so bummed we didn't get to see the Corgis. My wife loves Corgis, and they are so fun to watch because they're little fat, short-legged dogs.
It's what's funny is people like the Corgis because of their short legs. I have a dog that's part Corgi. It's an Augie. It doesn't have short legs because I don't like the short legs. But anyway, that's not important. Let's talk Steelers. Ready, Jeff?
I guess I'm about to go Tony Defio on my internet provider here in a second. So, and if you know what I'm talking about.
We all know.
If you know.
All right, so let's talk about this game, starting with the offensive side of the football. And we start with Russell Wilson, who I thought had a phenomenal game up until, the fumble. He finishes 20 of 28, 278 yards, a 9.9 yard average, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He did have the fumble. That was on a run. 4 sacks, 9 for 19 yards with a rating of 114.9. Gentlemen, what did you think about Russell Wilson? We'll start with you, Dave.
Well, his rating was higher than last week. Much more efficient. I mean, that 20 of 28, that was the biggest thing against Wilson last week was because of how many incompletions they had. And I'm looking at trying to think of the 8 incompletions. Well, there was the one that the first deep shot they took that went through the arms of Scotty Miller. It would have been a nice catch, but when it goes through your arms like that, and you don't even get to touch it, it's kind of frustrating. Najee Harris had the one that he dropped where he had a lot of room to go. So I feel they were much more efficient from that standpoint. But once again, what does an offense really get judged on? It's when you get to the red zone, can you convert? Can you come away with 7 points and not 3? And unfortunately, they did not score any red zone touchdowns tonight. But in all, I think it's a step in the right direction. Just you got to not leave so many points on the field.
Absolutely. Brian, what was your take on Russ?
I agree with what you're saying, Dave, but I like to think that they scored those touchdowns. They didn't get credit for them for
Yeah.
a few reasons, and ended up being valid reasons. I mean, that is definitely a face mask. I don't think the face mask made the play happen, but it was definitely a face mask there. And, that was just a tough break on George. Aikman kept on talking about, you can't let that happen. I think in the moment, that's a hard thing not to let happen. I mean, that's hard to do it with the way he's falling like that. So, as far as everything goes, I'm going to be an apologist for George Pickens on that play, but I'm not talking about George. I'm talking about Russ Wilson. He put the ball where it needed to be most of the time. I was worried the first couple plays where I saw a couple short hops, but the short hops went away. Like the short hops that were plaguing him in the first period last week. There was only about 2 of them, but I thought he had command. And again, I think he makes everybody better around him, especially Van Jefferson. He found Washington to get on a nice play. I think he's spreading the ball out more. I like the idea to go deep to Scotty Miller. I like all of this. This is just game 2, and he's starting to have a better composure against the rush as well. Now, he did get attacked a little bit, but it was better composure. Even on that run, I mean, he got punched out. The ball got punched out. He got TJ Watted on that play. And it's always hard to fault a punch out. I mean, it's hard to defend against a punch out like that. It's just when it's coming, it's hard to hold that ball in when the punch is coming. But nonetheless, a better passing efficiency than last week. He seems to be getting better. I think the fans are in love with him. I think the players are in love with him. And even Justin Fields, the way they are carrying on with each other on the bench, I think it's fantastic. This is a team that seems bonded, and I think it's more bonded because of Russell Wilson's presence in this game. So I thought it was a good night for him. I would definitely make him one of my stars of the game. One more thing, if you look at the most important thing, snap count, it's he's up to about 26% after this game, and it's closer and closer to reducing that to a 6th round pick.
Okay. I'm going to say that.
I was going to say, can I ask a quick question? Did it sound like I was being critical of Russell Wilson?
No.
I was going to say, because people were like, come on, he played. I'm like, yeah, I said he was even more efficient and everything than last week. The only difference is the offense as a whole, which he commands, didn't score as many points because they came away with 3s instead of 7s. But I don't get why people were like, come on, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I thought he, my goodness, even the rating and everything was better than last week. And now it's not just a 1-game sample. Now it's a pattern. Sorry about that, Jeff.
I just want to say about Russell Wilson from, you guys talk about specifics and we'll talk about a lot of these plays, whether it's George Pickens not getting 2 feet down, whether it was the Broderick Jones face mask that negated another George Pickens would-be touchdown. The one thing that I saw that I really liked from his performance against the Jets to the Giants is that the leash got a little bit longer and he started to be more aggressive. The Steelers went more with tempo in this game. It was not huddle. It was like a muddle huddle. They went tempo. So they didn't allow the Giants to substitute as much as they probably wanted. And he was aggressive. And there were so many times, just even late in the game, prior to the fumble was a beautiful drive where I forget, I think it was a Mason McCormick holding penalty. Najee Harris gets like 4 or 5 yards back. I think they have a throw over the middle to Van Jefferson, and it's like a 3rd and 7. I'm thinking, here comes a check down. They're just going to check it down, and they're going to hope that a guy makes a guy miss, and they get a first down.
They then moved it into field goal, like an easier field goal range. Yeah,
but he was aggressive. He was aggressive, and he had a huge conversion, I think, to Van Jefferson on that play. It was the one down the sideline where he got his. Was that not it? Is that
no? That's not the one I'm thinking of. The one I'm thinking of where McCormick got the hold. That was coming out. That was first play of the fourth quarter. They got the yards back, and I'm thinking, come on, go be aggressive, go for the first down. Yeah. And they went for the freaking touchdown to Calvin Austin.
Right. So there were a couple conversions there that there were times where what past would dictate what we would think we were going to see in the future was not there. And what I mean by that is that there were moments where you thought that Russell Wilson was going to play it safe. And he, along with the play caller, allowed him to be aggressive, and it paid off in the Steelers' favor. So for me, I thought that this was a great step forward for Russell Wilson. And I can't speak for everyone watching, listening, those Dave and Brian. This offense just has a completely different feel to it with Russell Wilson at the helm. And it's not that Justin Fields didn't do well. There were some moments where you saw it, and I was watching with my kids in the first half. I was like, man, Justin Fields would have ran for 25 plus on that play. But at the same time, you don't get those big passes down the field because that's just not Justin Fields' MO. I like the way this offense is trending. I think the Steelers do too. Brian, what do you want to add?
It's just a small thing, but with 25 seconds left and you have the ball at the 30 and you come out right before the halftime and you come out throwing, even though it didn't get anything, that's just showing this is a team that would always kneel in that situation. Yeah. And now this is a more aggressive team. And I think Russ helps bring that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on and let's talk about the running game, which I was really excited about. Najee Harris, I don't know what happened to that guy. I don't know who lit a fire under where, but the last 3 games, he has looked like a completely different running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He leads the Steelers in rushing once again, and he goes over 100 yards for the 3rd straight game with an average of 6 yards a carry, rushed for 114 on 19 carries, a 26-yard long. He was running like a man possessed in the first half. It was just 10-yard run, 10-yard run, 10-yard run. I want to say he had almost 80 yards in the first half. Jaylen Warren has 82. 9 for 40, 82. Jaylen Warren has 9 carries for 46 yards, a 5.1 average. Russell Wilson is 3 for 7, and he does have the lone fumble. The Steelers as a team rushed 31 times for 167 yards, a 5.4 average. Guys, what do you think about this running game? Dave, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought it really is coming along. And the biggest reason is when you have the threat of a passing game, it can really open up the running game. They really do work in tandem, because how many times you hear a great running game can open up the passing game? It works both ways. Now, what was interesting was the Steelers hardly had the ball in the third quarter. Najee Harris had 2 rushes for 2 yards in the third quarter. Jaylen Warren had 2 for 22. Although that's weird because I think they said he has, unless my numbers are getting messed up on the Steelers media website, just because they didn't have the ball much. But yeah, the run game is really getting going. It was good to see it going early and getting that push. So I really would have loved to have seen the Steelers just run out the clock with 5 minutes left, but unfortunately, they did have the turnover, which made it a little bit more. But that's what they were aiming to do. They were looking to do it, but hey, they got it back from T.J. Watt, and then they ran it a little bit more, and really was able to take some time off. I'm happy with what they can do. I mean, the fact that they can do that in those circumstances, even when the other team knows that's what's coming, is what really shows what's going on. Najee Harris, after dropping that pass, comes back and does the hurdle to get a first down since he needed to redeem himself there. But I've been really happy with the Steelers' run game recently. It's really kicked into gear.
Brian, what's your take on the running game?
They're pounding, and I love it. They're really helping control this game plan for the Steelers, and they're setting everything else up. The nice thing, though, and this is not a rip on Fields whatsoever, but it was hard to go ahead and look at the stats. And we even had to say this. Yes, they had over 100 yards rushing, but 57 of it was Fields. And you know that that's not a part of the game plan. That's most of the time that's getting out of trouble. When Russell Wilson also only has 7 yards, you know that your running backs getting close to 160 of that, you know that they're controlling things. And this isn't jet sweeps helping them out. These are basically 2 guys on the ground just ramming it down your throat.
Yeah. That's a good point about they haven't been calling on the wide receivers on the sweeps or anything like that. This is effective running just with your running backs.
You can start to see the Steelers figuring it out. They're getting comfortable. Mason McCormick now has several games under his belt as a rookie. You forget that he's a rookie. Isaac Seumalo's there and Broderick Jones. And now you have Ryan McCullum. Now you hope that Zach Frazier returns after the bye week. But ultimately, they're starting to figure it out. But even you see the Steelers starting to do what the Giants weren't able to do. And this can tie into the offensive line, and we can go there next if we want. They're not getting the procedural penalties that they were earlier in the season. They're cleaning up a lot of this stuff. And there were some holds. I mentioned Mason McCormick got called for holding, and then Broderick Jones. But let's get the offensive line out of the way. Dave, we'll start with you. What did you think about the offensive line tonight?
They had some rough moments, mainly from Broderick Jones, also from Calvin Anderson on his loan.
That's rough.
Snap.
That's tough, man.
Yeah,
I know.
Tough.
You're coming in cold.
Yeah.
But one thing, I
saw Dan Moore Jr. punch the ground before they had stopped the game. I'm like, oh no, don't tell me he's hurt. I don't even know what it was, but man, he shook it off and he was back in there. He's continuing to play well. You're going to get mistakes from some of these guys. You're going to get Ryan McCullum with a hold or a false start or one of those things occasionally. You're going to get that from Broderick Jones. Some people didn't like the face mask penalty, but like Brian said earlier, it was not as bad as the one that wasn't called on Thursday night, but still, because you never know with these officials, you can't say that it wasn't. Didn't really affect the play though, all that much, but just some rough moments still, but also some really nice moments early in the game. Right off the bat, Najee Harris was getting those runs because he's busting off 10 yards, but that's because the entire offensive line is surging 4. I mean, if you're surging the line of scrimmage 4 yards, and then he's able to get through and get those on his own, rather than him constantly getting hit in the backfield and having to break tackles just to get back to the line of scrimmage, there is some improvement going on there. It's just right now, especially with the raw Broderick Jones, just not. They need some more consistency.
All right, Brian, thoughts on the offensive line?
When Dan Moore Jr. went out on that play and I saw Calvin Anderson come in, I'm like, we're going to see how important Dan Moore Jr. is. And I think we did there. I mean, really, I think it's time to start saying that, look, you don't want to say that your Ford Taurus is a luxury car, but it's reliable. Maybe this guy's a Ford Taurus and it's reliable and it's getting things done. I think it's time to say that Dan Moore Jr. is your left tackle right now for this season and the foreseeable future until we see what's happening with Troy Fautanu, because right now Broderick Jones is really struggling. It's not time to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's not time to do that yet, but he still needs a lot of seasoning to get better. But there's things that I really like on this offensive line. Yes, Dave, you're absolutely correct. There were things that were not pretty, but the pretty out-uglied the pretty and the ugly. I think I know what I mean when I say that.
the pretty out pretty the ugly. Is that what you're trying to say?
Absolutely.
And I got you.
But let me say this. Mason McCormick is him.
Yeah.
He's
fun.
To quote my good friend Kevin Smith, he's a dude. He's entrenched. He is entrenched already, and it's a shame that you had to see James Daniels go out to get to see Mason McCormick. But Mason McCormick has a spot on that line for as long as he wants it.
He and Zach Frazier are going to make quite the tandem, I'm sure, on the interior of the offensive line for many years to come. I thought the offensive line and the run game was great. Pass pro, like Dave said. I mean, there was the play where Dexter Lawrence just single-handedly wrecked a third down play where McCollum, I don't know if he thought that McCormick was going to crack down or help, and he didn't. And next thing you know, Russell Wilson's running for his life and ends up getting sacked by Burns. So there are issues in pass protection. I do think those will get shored up a little bit when Zach Frazier returns. Fingers crossed that is after the bye. There's no guarantee he and Herbig will return after the bye week. Cam Sutton should be able to return after the bye week. So we'll be hearing more about that this week. And I do want to update quickly before I forget injuries. I don't know if y'all said anything. Mike Tomlin said no major injuries in this game. That's a huge 2 thumbs up as the Steelers now are able to get everyone, okay, let's take a week off. Let's get ourselves right. Let's get ready for this stretch run. But we're not done yet. We got to finish the offense. We got to talk about the pass catchers. Yeah. The Pittsburgh Steelers have 278 yards receiving. George Pickens leads the way, 4 catches on 5 targets for 74 yards. Van Jefferson had 62 yards on 5 targets, 4 catches. Calvin Austin, 3 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown, 4 targets. Darnell Washington with the longest catch of his career so far, 29-yard reception is his only target. Pat Freiermuth, I don't know what is it going to take to get this guy like steady production? I have no idea. 2 catches for 19 yards on 2 targets. Najee Harris, 3 for 17. Jalen, 2 for 13. Michael Pruitt, 1 for 10. What was your takeaway on the pass catchers? Dave, we'll start with you.
I thought they did a nice job. I'm not going to fault George Pickens for not getting the 2 separate feet down. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking there when that's going on. I don't know everything about football, obviously, but I like to think that I know the rules pretty well, or if not, I try to make sure that I do it. And I honestly had no clue when that happened. I'm like, does 2 from the same feet count, or does it have to be 2 different feet? I didn't know. And I wouldn't be shocked if they actually changed that rule in the offseason because this happened. But that was a nice play by the defender to push him enough that he couldn't get the other foot down. It was a nice job getting that catch. He probably never imagined that wasn't going to be a touchdown. So I thought, Pickens did a nice job. Van Jefferson, I thought, nice job. Great catch on that first long ball connection. I mean, my goodness, they didn't even throw a long ball until the final minute of the third quarter. And then look at how it paid off. Calvin Austin, I like that they opened the game with him. I like that the first play went to him, especially after last week when he dropped one early and just seemed like he wasn't quite in it, because he is someone who has been getting open. So to see him do that and get the touchdown, spread the ball around. No, Pickens didn't have 100 yards, but my goodness, when you have three receivers all going over 50, that's a pretty nice thing too.
Yeah. Brian, thoughts on the pass catchers?
You don't need just cool when the gang could sing pretty well, and the gang were singing and they were spreading it around tonight, and Russell Wilson was finding more guys. That's why Pat Freiermuth does not need to have 10 targets in a game, but he's there when you need him. But I'm pretty pleased that Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson are getting in the game plan. I love that Scotty Miller's getting in the game plan. Sure, I want to see a guy in the next 10 days come in the locker room from another location and relocate to Pittsburgh. I still want to see that. I still want to see them add. But I will tell you this right now, you're getting a lot more than you thought you were getting in the first quarter of this season from Jefferson and from Austin that you are right now. So that makes you feel pretty good. And it's the way a veteran quarterback is finding ways to use them, but these guys are getting open. The big thing for me is there was only 1 coverage sack. And it seems like in the Kenny Pickett era, last year, it seemed like there was a whole heck of a lot, the last couple of years, a whole heck of a lot of coverage sacks. And now you only had 1 tonight, from what I understand.
Yeah. I want to bring this up because Youngboy24 says, in all caps for you, Dave, Russ makes the receiving core better. And
must you shout?
It is true. Now I say
Yes.
this now based on the fact that I think that this is going to really piss the fans off. I could see the Steelers saying, we don't need to go out and get a high price player. We don't need to send a high draft pick to get a receiver. We think we can win with these guys here. Now, the vast majority of the fan base is going to vehemently disagree with that. They're going to say, no, you need someone else. And I'm not saying they're not going to get someone. Brian obviously said he thinks they should go out and get someone. If there's a veteran out there that is cheap, that's not going to cost them a ton. I said this is not sourced information, by the way. Get that out of the way. I brought up on my Let's Ride podcast Adam Thielen as an option.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That would make sense. But then again, if you bring in Adam Thielen, what does that do with the current receiving core? Do you want to take Calvin Austin off the field? Do you want to take, I guess, Van Jefferson maybe? He's starting to turn it on. I don't know. Dave, what do you want to say?
I was going to say, I wonder if there's a certain receiver that lost in back-to-back weeks to the Steelers that had to give an impassioned speech to his locker room because it just isn't a good culture, that now sees what's happening with wide receivers in Pittsburgh and would say, oh, maybe that wasn't such a bad place to go. Meaning that you had to think about it. If someone actually had a choice and you saw the Steelers offense early on in this season, you're like, are they really, George Pickens doesn't seem like he's overly happy with how much he's being utilized. Now, it makes a huge difference with everything. And I could see the Steelers saying, you know what, we think we can do all right with this. I don't know that that's the right approach. I also don't think they have to force something. They don't have to force it. They don't have to sell the farm for something that's less than what they really want. But if they could add another dynamic receiver, you're just talking a whole new level. I mean, you can make your team better, and they should always be looking to make their team better.
Hey,
but
if Darius Slayton
if
Darius Slayton is available after what he just did against the Steelers, I would love to have him on the Steelers.
That was a good audition.
Yeah, that was a great audition.
It was.
All right, very good. So what we're going to do, for those that are watching live on any platform, we're not going to go anywhere. For those listening on the audio side, we're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor. We're going to come back, hit up some super chats, and then we got a lot to talk about with this defense. So we'll be right back after this break. All right, Steeler fans, we are back. Second half of the postgame show. Steelers win 26-18 over the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants, as Chris Berman always said. Let's do some super chats. Let's get Leo. Leo C gave us $4.99. He said a penny for each of Coach Smith's reps in the weight room. That's leading by example. Danny Smith repping him out for sure. I love that video. That's from a few years ago where he's lifting with the guys at training camp. Let's go to Steel Dog 88, gives us $5. Happy for the win. Run defense scares me, especially with Henry and the Ravens ahead. JPJ struggled against Neighbors. Yeah, I mean, Joey Porter Jr., I don't know how many times he and Neighbors were going one-on-one. They had JPJ follow Slayton on occasion, which I thought was very interesting. I think that brings up bigger questions with the defense that we're going to get to here. Let's go to Dave Dixon. He gives us $5. Austin 316 says, I just returned that punt. Yes. Love that.
Yes.
Love it.
Or is it 319? No.
I just watched the very
CA
first
319. Right, Brian?
Can I say something about that?
That promo for the Austin 316 from back in the day after he beat Jake the Snake. I just watched that with my kids the other day, and it is hysterical.
It is hilarious. But I got to say something about that. I interviewed Calvin Austin.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I said that to him live, and he started to laugh. He goes, wow, that would have been cool. He said, maybe I should have been 16.
Yeah, that would be a hell of a shirt. All right, let's go to Leo Canales. Gives us $9.99. Said, did you all see the interaction between Fields and Wilson on the bench? I loved it. What are your thoughts? Go Steelers. Thank you guys for your time. Leo, thank you for the tip. We appreciate it. Is this one after the TJ Watt strip sack and they're like high fiving each other?
That's what I think they're referring to.
Yeah, but even before that, they were hanging out on the bench after the fumble too, and they were talking it out, and it was almost like Fields was consoling him, and they were not really consoling him, but they were in solidarity. but a lot. Even you saw them throughout the game on the bench together. That's something I brought up earlier. It's great to see. Those guys are bonded.
Yeah. I didn't realize that they said it on the broadcast that Justin Fields told the production team that when he was a young up and coming player in high school, who did he like? Cam Newton and Russell Wilson. And now he's on a team with him. So I'm sure that's pretty cool. All right, guys, let's dive into the defense, shall we? There's a lot to be desired, in my opinion. Defense. And let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers god awful run defense. They allowed the New York Giants to rush for 157 yards on 25 carries. They were busting off a 6.3 yard clip per clip, average, whatever you want to call it. They did score a touchdown, a 45-yard touchdown by Tyrone Tracy Jr., who had 145 yards, a 45-yard long left in what, Dave, the third quarter? Or was it
that was the fourth.
Okay.
That was just before TJ TJ Watt strip sack.
Okay, so Tyrone Tracy was running all over the Steelers, and he still gets 145 yards on 20 carries, and he ended up leaving the game. I'm pretty sure he's in the concussion protocol after getting tackled pretty hard, his head bouncing off the Acrisure turf. Devin Singletary has 2 carries for 11. Daniel Jones 3 for 1. This was the most disappointing part of the game for me. By far was the Steelers' poorest run defense. Dave, what were your thoughts?
Oh yeah, this was the most disappointing part of the game. You're right. Well, yeah, I would even say it's more disappointing than coming away with 3s instead of 7s. Just because the other part, you could say how some of those things were just things didn't go quite your way. This was, oh my goodness, here we go. I mean, the one time it seemed like they had him stopped for 8 yards, and then he drug a couple guys, and then he broke free and he ran for 20. The touchdown was not good. I didn't think that the tackling was great. It wasn't as bad as the first half of last week, but it still wasn't great either. The Giants, I think, had a pretty good game plan when it came to running the ball and how they did it. Don't ask me to describe it to you. I can't. But it looked good, if you know what I mean. So kudos to them. But the Steelers, they've got to be better at stopping the run than what they were tonight. This is one of those things that I meant of you didn't play your best game, but yet you still managed to get out of there with a win.
Yeah, Brian, what's your thoughts on the run defense?
Not only did you not play your best game, you got out of there with a win, and you still kept a team under 20 points. So, I mean, you're still keeping them off the board a whole heck of a lot. I will say this. I thought it was one of the worst displays against the run that we've seen all season, of course, but it was probably one of the worst we've seen in the last couple of years, because I felt like they were getting shredded in this game. But there were times in the fourth quarter where I felt like they started to stand up and they started to realize that, hey, we are the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're not supposed to run on us. So I kind of felt like the defense got redemption at the end, and that was more with the pass rush, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I also saw the run defense step up late in the fourth quarter as well, where it was a situation where they couldn't run as much. Granted, Tracy went out of the game, but they were still cracking some people in the fourth quarter, and I felt like they were finding their legs, albeit late.
Hey, if you go back to Friday's Let's Ride podcast, the Behind Enemy Line segment, I had Josh and Alex of the Giant Take on my show. Mm-hmm. And I said to Josh, give me a player on the offense that might not be known by a lot of people, but could have an impact. You know who he said? Tyrone Tracy Jr. He said he used to be a wide receiver. He's a really dynamic running back. And damn if he wasn't right. This guy runs hard, good. He had good contact balance, like Dave mentioned, breaking tackles. If he stays in the game, who knows what's going to happen? But still, he was a dynamic player in the Steelers' run defense. They're going to have some time to get it short.
There was only 2 minutes left, and they had no timeouts, so I don't know how much they could have leaned on that.
No, I feel like for him, it's just get him in space.
Yeah.
Even if it was in the passing game, not so
Yeah.
much in the running game. And so, all right, so let's leave the run defense for a second and let's talk about the pass defense. Daniel Jones throws for 264 yards. He goes 24-38, a 6.9 average. He did not throw a touchdown. He threw one interception to Beanie Bishop, which sealed the victory. Was sacked 4 times. Here's the crazy part. The Steelers had 12 quarterback hits of Daniel Jones in this game. I mean, the pressure was there a lot. He finishes with a 72.7 rating. So I want to break this into 2 parts. I want to talk about the secondary first, and then we'll talk about the pass rush. The secondary, Darius Slayton, mentioned him in the first half. He had 108 yards on 4 catches for a long of 43 yards. Malik Neighbors, 71 yards on 7 catches, was targeted 13 times. Theo Johnson, 3 catches for 35 yards. Wandale Robinson, 5 for 30. Devin Singletary, 2 for 12. And that's all I'm going to mention. But a 264 yards receiving. Let's talk about the secondary first. Dave, what were the issues?
Oh, what were the issues? Once again, it seemed like third down. Third down has been a booger the last couple weeks. It's almost like the Steelers. I don't like their philosophy on third down. If it's third and 12, the whole idea of just only give up 11. Well, they did that earlier in the game. And what did the Giants do? They went for it on 4th down and got it because it was makeable, because they were content to let them catch the ball in front and tackle them short of the sticks. But when you're doing that at, let's say, your own 40-yard line, that you run the risk of doing that. I mean, the long by Neighbors, wasn't that a 16-yard completion on a 3rd and 16?
Yep.
So that was kind of what I thought was frustrating, is how they were playing at times on third down. But man, that deep ball early on the Giants' first drive, Dante Jackson wasn't like he was out of position. He was right there. That was, believe it or not, a really nice throw and catch. It wasn't like it was a blown coverage or someone was just got horrendously beat. It wasn't egregious in that way. So it's one of those things of, what do you know? Daniel Jones didn't play awful, and therefore they were able to. In today's NFL, guys are going to be able to catch the ball. It's just how it works with the rules and everything else. But it's not that they were bad; they just weren't. They weren't lights out that we have seen sometimes with the Steelers secondary times this season.
Brian, thoughts on the secondary?
It's not going to surprise me if in a couple years this is a hell of an offense with these wide receivers here. I don't think Slayton's going to be there much longer, because you know what? Darius Slayton is considered their number 3 receiver, because the onus right now is they want to go more with, of course, Malik Neighbors, who's, I believe, the number 5 pick in the draft, and then Wandale Robinson. They love so much. Theo Johnson, who was another draft pick as a tight end. This is a very good young receiving football team. So I'm thinking that the Steelers and a lot of us out there kind of thought that this Giants team wasn't as strong on offense as we thought. We thought they were very weak. I'm going to give credit to Dave Schofield, who said, hey, they're a lot better than you think, especially on the road. And for a young team to go on the road and continue to get open like that and continue to get opportunities, I'm chalking this up to a bad night for the Steelers. And I don't think that Dante Jackson is 100%. Don't think he is at all. And that could be something. Dave's laughing.
Well, did you notice his business decision? On that quote unquote touchdown? He saw the flag, and when he had that huge tight end barreling for the end zone, he let him go because he knew it was going back.
Okay.
So that tells me right there. Any other time, I think he goes and sticks his helmet in there. I think you're right. I think he needs this time off to get a little bit better there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just don't think that he was 100% healthy. You have a renegade in Joey Porter Jr. He's going to live and die by it. he's going to win more than he loses, but when he loses, it's going to be glaring. And so I just kind of feel like they gave up a whole lot more than anybody thought they were going to, but I don't think these were nameless gray faces on the other side of the ball. I thought the Giants offense was a lot better than anybody expected.
Well, I think with the offensive line, and this is going to bleed into talking about the pass rush, the offensive line for the Giants did enough to limit the amount of times the Steelers actually got to Daniel Jones. And then when they had to start really pushing the ball down the field is when the Steelers pass rush started to get home. And so this is the way the Steelers have built their defense. And it's really simple. It's not a complex defense. Everyone talks about it. They build everything off of them winning with their front four and then standing up in coverage in the back end. And if they don't get home, it's ugly. And that's what we saw. And if you get run on, which this is the first game they've given up a lot of yards rushing and haven't lost. They gave up yards to the Colts. They gave up yards to the Cowboys. This looked like at one time, I was like, man, this is following a really bad trend as they're getting ready for AFC North football after the bye. But nonetheless, let's talk about the pass rush. I mentioned the 12 quarterback hits, the 4 sacks. TJ Watt obviously leads the way. He has 2, and they credit him with 2 sacks. I know one time I thought I heard of the announcer at the stadium say it was a sack, but it was a 1-yard run by Daniel Jones where he tripped him up. But TJ Watt has 2 sacks. Alex Highsmith has the other 2. Those 2 have a fantastic game. So both of them do. Dave, thoughts on the pass rush?
Well, technically they had 13 quarterback hits, but on one of them, Highsmith put his face mask in Jones's face mask, and they called that penalty. I mean, he didn't knock him down or anything, but it was that had to be why they called it. I'm not saying they should have, but it was. But the pass rush, it's not that it wasn't there. I mean, you saw the quarterback hits, but you also saw the Giants were doing everything they could to keep that from really getting home. Look at how many times they were throwing swing passes, just dump offs behind the line of scrimmage to wide receivers, designed that way. Screen passes specifically because of the Steelers pass rush and not wanting to give them a chance. And then they took their shots when they thought they could. But that whole time, TJ Watt, he was just, I'd say waiting his time, but he's going full out on every play, just waiting for that opportunity. Are they going to try to take a shot down the field when Watt only had one-on-one? He had a one-on-one situation. When they did, he made him pay for it.
Yeah. All right, Brian, what's your take on the pass rush?
I thought they put a lot of pressure. I thought there were a lot of chips. I thought that offensive line stood up as well as they could, but there was disruption. There was enough disruption there, kind of like Dave said. But I thought when the rubber hit the road at the end, you had 2 sacks in a row, 1 Highsmith, 1 Watt, and then the big strip sack at the end when TJ's like, all right, let's go ahead and put this one to bed. And that's exactly what they did. It was vintage TJ Watt. Just when you thought that there was a part of that game when I'm thinking that some people are going to start wondering about TJ Watt, because I see all these great things that he does elsewhere, but when he's not getting home, people will start to wonder. No, he was doing a lot of the dirty work, and then he got free a couple of times, and it meant the game towards the end. So as far as everything goes, I've as much as I did not like the defense tonight, I thought they redeemed themselves with the pass rush, especially at the end with big sacks.
Yeah, and you said, Brian, it's kind of like my rule of 20, which I brought up on my Let's Ride podcast, where if the defense can keep the opposition off of 20 points, the offense should be able to do enough to score 20 points or more. And the Steelers basically epitomized that tonight. giving up 18 points. And yes, there were times where it looked like it could have been worse. And I, for once, feel like the Steelers have an offense now that 20 points should almost be like, hey, they're going to score 20. We haven't been able to say that for a while. That, oh yeah, they'll go out and get 20. And now, we're looking at our predictions. I'm reading the staff picks, and people are saying 27, 34, 30, 31. Like, that's where we are now. So I think that this is trending at least in the right direction, despite a little blip on the radar. And I think that's what this was a little blip in the radar in terms of the Steelers defense. Let's do 2 super chats where we talk about the special teams quickly, and then we'll do some final thoughts. Tyler W gives us $2. Steelers forced 1 punt in the first half. That's unacceptable. It wasn't
W
good.
was there. He was sitting in my seats.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And he said that, it was kind of a slugfest at times. Nathan Smith gives us $1.99. Said, bad. So you're saying the wide receivers are the Commodores?
Yeah. You know what? I am. I think they're the gang with Cool. I think they're the Commodores with or without Lionel Richie. If William Orange is there, William Orange could sing as well, like he did on Night Shift. But I'm also saying they're Huey Lewis, and the rest of the receivers are the News.
Very good. Let's go Tyler W again, $5. He said Watt took 6 points off the board with his sacks. That might be the game in this slop fest. I would like to hear no more about Watt being too quiet. He had a big game, but he had been quiet before this game. Let's also call a spade a spade. So, all right, let's talk special teams because we have to. Chris Boswell's Money in the Bank. Corliss Waitman has definitely lived up to, I guess you would say, the standard from Cameron Johnston, which we didn't see much of that this year, unfortunately. And another special teams gem, this one, a Calvin Austin III 73-yard punt return touchdown. The last time the Steelers saw a punt return touchdown was Deontay Johnson in 2019 at Arizona. So, Dave, any thoughts on the special teams?
Was that 19? Yeah, I guess it would have had to have been.
Yeah, it was the Duck Hodges year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Special teams. Okay. Well, first of all, it was hard to get excited on that punt return.
Oh, gosh, you're exactly right. Go ahead.
I didn't cheer it.
Because no, I saw the flag right away, and I'm like, that's going to be most likely on the kicking team, illegal procedure, something like that, when the flag flies high in the air as soon as they snap it. Because if it would have been an offsides, they would have blown it dead just so there wouldn't have been a block. So I assumed that. Then you saw the kicker go down. Then you saw guys that are making blocks kind of ease up on things to make sure they're not blocking the back. And I'm just waiting for the offsetting penalties. I just had accepted, you know what, we're just going to do this all over again. It's just going to be offsetting penalties. The replay showed, they're like, oh, well, why didn't they call it? Could they have called that ring of the kicker? I don't know that he actually touched him and the kicker just kind of went down because he got close.
I thought he was blocked into him.
And it also looked like he was being blocked. So either way, you could have made that argument. So I don't blame them for not throwing that one. But I'm just like, it just seems like every time there's a big return, oh, there's a hold. Oh, there's a block in the back. Oh, there's something. And I didn't worry about the initial flag. My thing was there another one that I hadn't seen? So that one came more, I didn't cheer it. That one came more of a relief when it was actually called a touchdown.
And Joe Buck 15,000 times during the return. Like, it's an exciting play still. There's a flag on the play. There's a flag on the play. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyways, Brian, thoughts on the special teams?
Just like Dave, I did not cheer it either because, and I told my son who was going crazy, and once again, it's awesome to have somebody to cheer now, and he's more vociferous than I am. But I said, nah, it's coming back, Connor. And because unlike Dave, I was just worried about what I didn't see for the fact that they got in there that quick, and I didn't realize how high it went. I'm not smart enough to understand how high a flag goes, that means something. All I thought is that somebody somebody got in a little too quick and was offsides, like outside of the screen that I couldn't see. Somebody on the wings.
When they throw it up in the air, typically that's something that happened at the line of scrimmage, because if it's something that happened somewhere else, they're throwing the flag at the location.
Okay.
That's why I made that comment. Just to explain, because I wasn't.
Yeah,
clear
that's
on that.
interesting. And I don't know that. I thought it was offsides on the defense. And then I thought they could possibly get him for running into the kicker. But we saw the flag before he ran into the kicker. So I kind of felt a little bit better about that. But I just sat there with my arms folded. And usually I'm like, go, 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 go. But I couldn't do it because I was sure it was coming back. So I was pleasantly surprised with that. But as far as to answer Jeff's question, the entire special teams, it seems like there's a myth about this special teams right now, and they're making the myth come true and true every week. It feels like even with Minka's block last week that was not a block because it was erroneously called pushing off. I absolutely I'm expecting that they have an opportunity to block every single game. So when I say that a myth, I'm just saying that people around the league are singing songs about the Steelers special team, and Danny Smith Jr. is becoming a folk legend. He really is. I mean, people are starting to notice him because of the special teams, and he is becoming a figure to go ahead and celebrate. And we've had so many years where you're like, what is this dude doing? But it seems like everything is working, and this special teams unit believes in this guy. And you could tell the way they celebrated with him last week. So he finds a way to inspire them, and that's good coaching right there. So, as far as it's going, I mean, you look every time there's a scouting report on the Steelers, you have to look at the special teams as a threat. And we've been saying this all along. Jeff's been saying it. Dave's been saying it. I've been saying it. Calvin Austin Jr. is going to block. Calvin Austin III is going to block one. Break one. And he finally took it to the house. And it's hard to believe that there aren't going to be more.
Yeah.
The biggest thing about his touchdown was because after already seeing 2 touchdowns called back, one for a penalty, one for saying, oh, it's not a catch. It just kind of seemed like that's what it was going to be. I'm like, are they going to really take away a third? That had to be why the crowd was being the way it was. But also, even though he wasn't asked to do anything longer than a 31-yarder today, it's still the overall appreciation for Chris Boswell that continues to just knock him through and scored. My goodness, he scored so many points for the Steelers this year. Super lucky to have him. He's the best kicker in the NFL.
Absolutely. And I think you're at the point now where you almost expect a special teams play in some way every game. And that's greedy because sometimes those blocks come once a season. And the Steelers have already had when it comes to field goals and punt blocks.
Well, and Miles hasn't done it yet either.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you always, towards the end of the year, you're going to expect 2 out of him.
Yeah. All right. This has been a good show, and we appreciate everyone who stuck around with us till the wee hours of the morning. Let's do our final thoughts here, Dave. Go ahead.
All right. My final thoughts are the Pittsburgh Steelers are 6-2 rolling into the bye week. There you go. Could it have been better? Yeah. You look back at a game, you're like, oh, man. Each loss was by 3 points. Oh, imagine if they were at 7-1 or 8-0. You know what? If you would have told me back in May when the schedule came out that the Steelers would be 6-2 at this point, I would say sign me up all day. So they're in a good spot. The other thing that I think is really interesting to talk about here is look at the expectations that we have. We're talking about, especially me, that the Pittsburgh Steelers managed to find a way to win when they didn't have their best game. Now, their best game, not having their best game on offense meant too many threes and not enough sevens. But it was really more about the defense and the run defense. And they gave up a number of yards to the air to a quarterback that had been struggling. But as I said, not on the road. He was having home issues. But we're talking about the defense not having their best stuff. And they only gave up 18 points. We are spoiled by the Steelers defense. That's the standard that they have set for themselves. So that's another thing that you got to remember. Yeah, 18 points, and we're like, oh man, the defense didn't have it in the same way that they've had it at other times this season. But now it's all about getting healthy, doing some self-reflecting and really getting ready for this push. I'm really excited about the second half of the season. At least we're going into having 13 days off on a victory. That's really helpful. But man, I don't want the bye week right now, even though the Steelers need it, because my goodness, I'm enjoying watching this team play, and I just want to keep seeing it on the field.
All right, Brian, final thoughts.
Guys, I'm super tired, but I've got a lot of thoughts rolling around in my cranium right now, so bear with me. I'll try to be brief, but here we go. First and foremost, this was not a 2 a.m. game. This was the game where you get her phone number at 9 p.m., then around 10:30, she goes off with some friends from college, including the guy that hit on her for a long time. But guess what? Around midnight, she goes home with you. So what that means in outside of Brian's brain, what means is that they had it all along, but they had to work for it a little more. Hey, look, it's all right to have your butt cheeks clench every once in a while. The last 2 weeks, they had it fairly easy at the end. We sat back and relaxed. We started typing in headlines. Steelers win. We did that. We didn't do it this week, but come on. Think about it. In the back of your head, you're thinking they still have this. They're going to be okay because there is a new mystique with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Look, yes, they are 6-2 at the bye week. The daunting part of the schedule comes up. I don't think it was as daunting as it was in May, June, July, August, and September. That schedule is not as bad now. It's going to be challenging. If we know something about the Steelers, they like to be challenged with tougher teams. And the final thing to say is the Steelers at the bye week, the last couple years, we said this. I could hear Jeff Hartman saying it the last couple years. Well, the bye came right at the right time because the Steelers have all these injuries. Nah, right now, the Steelers are getting guys back from injuries after the bye, getting a guy back from suspension after the bye, most likely in these situations. They have a chance to go into the bye not unhealthy. When I say not unhealthy, because they didn't lose guys in this game that we know of. Guys with bumps and bruises, as Mike Tomlin say, came back into the game and all seemed well. So as I keep on talking, we're getting super chats. So I'm going to wrap it up with this. This is a good time for the bye just to go ahead and load up. And when I say load up, it's build on and not have to go ahead and scramble and fix your ills and your injuries.
All right, well said. Let's go to Justin Gall. Gives us $19.99. So just finished up the post tailgate, fellas. What a game. You guys still on. Love it. Stadium was rocking. Thank you for the tip. Glad to hear that the stadium was alive and well. And then Steelers Nation Australia, our buddy Marky D from Down Under gives us $5 dingo dollars and says, keep it real. There you go. Amen. All right, so let's give you a little quick rundown of what's going to be happening on the Steel Curtain Network. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a special Winners and Losers podcast, which you can check that on the audio only side. Then a little bit later in the morning, Bryan Davis, and actually early afternoon, and Coach KT Smith will be diving into the Here We Go Steelers show. And then Dave and his big bro Rich will be back for the Scobro show Tuesday night. Yes, Dave?
There's no Tomlin press conference during the bye week.
No.
Even if there was, I don't know why they do it the next day anyway. So
yeah. So that's what's
we'll
coming
be back
up
tomorrow night.
Make sure you check it all out and check us out at steelcurtainnetwork.com. I stand by that site, and I think that it's only getting better and better every single day, every single week. So go to steelcurtainnetwork.com. It's steelcurtainnetwork.com. Give us a shot. Other than that, that's it. We won't be back for a post-game show for a while, but we'll be back for our other podcasts, so make sure you check us out there. But until the next time the Steelers play, take it easy. Steelers win 26-18 going into the bye week. Here we go.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.